Hello and welcome to a new trip report on my channel Bongoplanes. I'm currently here back home in Denmark, where I've been on a little bit of vacation. I've just given back my rent car and am now heading over to the terminal of Billund airport. I will be flying to Geneva, and that will be with Lufthansa, and that means we will be flying via Frankfurt. And therefore I think I will split this trip report up in two parts. So the first part will be today from Billund to Frankfurt, and then the second part, which will come out probably in 1 or 2 weeks time, that will be then from Frankfurt to Geneva. Anyway, I'm heading into the terminal. See you in a little bit, where I will give you all the information about today's flight. Alright, so we are back. As you can see, we are already on the plane in my seat, and I thought now we have some time to talk, so now I can give you all the information about today's flight. So as you probably already know, we are on a Lufthansa flight. We are on flight LH 837 from Billund to Frankfurt. Our gate was gate 12. Our boarding time was scheduled as 10 minutes past 10, and our departure time is scheduled as 10:40. We are sitting in seat 6F. Now that we've talked about the basic information about this flight, let's quickly talk about the boarding procedure in Billund Airport. Well, let me say it straight away. I'm not a very big fan of the airport staff in Billund. Most of them are simply really unqualified. Today it was as smooth as it gets in Billund, and that doesn't mean a lot. However, they managed to not have any major catastrophes. But I noticed, for example, one thing that is a standard thing and that they absolutely have to do. They didn't proceed with any form of priority boarding, so they just opened up straight away. I mean, I can say, sure, fair enough, I don't care, I'm flying economy today, so I wouldn't benefit from it. But people do pay for it, and it's part of what they pay for, and they do expect to get it. So not doing it, as the airport is the handling agent for Lufthansa, is simply just bad practice. Now that's it for the boarding procedure. A quick word about the airport. In the central area of the airport, just after the security check, there used to be a waiting area with seating, where you could get a seat and wait for your gate to be announced. This was really practical, especially as the gates often are announced very late. However, the airport has chosen to add more shops, which I can understand, as the airports today mainly actually live off the income from these shops. However, when you then remove all the seating in the area where you have the most screens available, that's just really bad for your passengers. So I'm not really happy with that choice. And it might sound like I'm really dissing this airport, but I wouldn't say all these things if it wasn't because I really see a big potential in this airport. I personally actually really like the airport. It's opening up enormous possibilities for a very big part of Denmark. But the airport is just not keeping up with the demands, and I mean, this is not unreasonable demands from passengers. And when you have international traffic, the demands are simply greater as if you are just a very tiny little regional airport. And unfortunately, the airport doesn't really cope with that. And that can lead to some major annoyances and sometimes really big problems. Now, enough said about the airport. Let's get a quick word in about the comfort on board this aircraft. Lufthansa, they have these really standard basic seats. They're very, very thin. So they are okay for like flights about an hour up to 2 hours. After that, they can actually get quite uncomfortable. However, the leg space or the leg room is actually quite decent for European traffic. As you can see here, I have about space for between my knee and the front seat, four fingers, maybe 3.5. And I'm 182 centimeters high, so that's not too bad at all. Now, as we are taxiing towards runway 27 of Billund Airport, Billund Airport is a single runway airport, in case you didn't know, which should give us a really nice view for the takeoff, as we will be passing by the terminal, which hopefully will be very nice to see from our angle. Anyway, I think I will speed up this process, and then we will talk again once we are heading into Frankfurt Airport, and then we can get an assessment of today's flight. So see you in a little while. We are still on flight LH830, heading into Frankfurt now, and while we are passing by the skyline of Frankfurt, we can talk a little bit about today's flight. So we were heading out of Billund from runway 27, and then we did a couple of left turns, and we're flying from basically first northbound, then left turns, and then southbound, past Hamburg, and of course now heading into Frankfurt. The service today was quite alright. It was very much a Lufthansa standard, so if you like that, then it's fine. If you don't, well, I guess you need to find a different airline. For me, it was absolutely fine. There was nothing really negative to report. There wasn't anything overly positive to report, but it was just a good standard experience with Lufthansa, so that was pretty decent. Now, I have no idea which runway we will get into at the moment. Obviously, once we are on the ground, I will know, and then of course I will let you know. And then we will have the final assessment about the entire trip from today. And of course, later then, in 1 or 2 weeks, I will have the second part out from this trip. So the continuation, the flight from Frankfurt that continues to Geneva. We are only seconds away from landing. Let's see how that goes. Very nice and smooth, but quite a heavy braking. Okay. Not very smooth braking afterwards. The landing itself was fine, but the braking was quite heavy. I guess they really want to make an exit here. Now, welcome to Frankfurt Airport. We've landed on runway 25 right. This is the latest addition to Frankfurt Airport, the newest runway they have. As far as I know, they are only landing single-aisle aircrafts here. I think that's something to do with like noise reduction or noise protection of neighboring communities. But anyways, we are heading into the airport now. I will collect my thoughts and then I will give you the final assessment of today's trip in just a few moments. And now it's time for the final assessment of today's flight. Today's flight will be judged on the following criteria: departure airport lounge, boarding, flight and arrival airport. Now, departure airport was Billund airport, and honestly speaking, it's an airport with a lot of potential. However, they simply don't live up to that, and there are too many small and big things that just go wrong far too often. So I struggle to give the airport 3 stars on this trip. Lounge, obviously, is maybe a little bit tricky, and it's maybe a little bit unfair, but I want to take this point anyway. I didn't go to the lounge in Billund this time because Lufthansa hasn't made an agreement with the lounge. They actually had it once, but they cancelled that agreement. As a frequent traveler for Lufthansa, that means that you have no access to the lounge unless you pay yourself. Now, you could say that's fair enough. However, is it really? I mean, the truth is simply that Lufthansa treats their frequent travelers as something the cat has dragged in. They really don't care. Unless, of course, you are a Starlines Gold Card holder, then you get a little bit more, and you do also get access to that lounge. But as a Silver Card frequent traveler of Lufthansa, you just get the bare minimums of what the airline really can offer. And the rest, well, that's your problem. The boarding itself, for me personally, it was alright. But again, there are so many things in standard procedures that the airport simply cannot live up to because their staff is simply not qualified. So also here, I really struggle to give more than 3 stars. The flight, however, was very good. There was nothing negative to report here. High Lufthansa standard. So I want to be fair here and give it 5 stars. The arrival airport is Frankfurt airport, as you know. And although we really haven't seen much of the airport yet, as the second part of our trip will be in the next video, I want to give some points here as well. Now, the one negative point I really have here in case of Frankfurt airport is that we have a remote stand position. This means we have to go into the terminal by bus. That itself is of course not a big problem. However, it adds more time from getting from the airplane to the terminal. And with connection time already being at the bare minimum, that can make catching your connecting flight really tight. Now, that leaves us with a what I would call decent score, but there's definitely room for improvement. Now, if you have stayed until the end of this video, you are an absolute champ. I know they are normally getting a bit long, these trip reports, but as I said, if you stayed until the end, kudos to you. Now, with that, I would like to say thank you very much for watching. Don't miss out on the next trip report. The continuation of our trip from Frankfurt to Geneva should come out in 1 or 2 weeks. Hope to see you soon again. I'm checking out, and bye.